Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very last week in January 2020. And it's a very, very special day. It's Janae's birthday. And if anyone guesses her really true age, you get a special prize. I'll give you a hint. It's from a Beatles song. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm... Yeah, I did give up my singing career for you.
I can tell.
Yeah. Anyway, I have some interesting news, as always, for you on this cold and very snowy day for your birthday. And so, of course, President Trump was in Davos at the World Economic Forum. Davos, of course, is in Switzerland.
Isn't there Davos in the Philippines too?
That's Davao City.
I'm close.
I was in both places, by the way, and I would prefer Switzerland because I do not like Mindanao.
No.
It's a terrible place. Anyway, so he was talking about the America First agenda to all the world leaders at Davos, and he says, quote, "Only when governments put their citizens first will people be fully invested in their national futures." And that's very true. He also continued, "America's newfound prosperity is undeniable, unprecedented, and unmatched anywhere in the world. America achieved this stunning turnaround not by making minor changes to a handful of policies, but by adopting a whole new approach centered entirely on the well-being of the American worker." And it's true, because he had to get rid of all of the garbage from the last previous administrations,
He's still working on that.
and he's still doing that. He says every decision we make on taxes, trade, regulation, energy, immigration, education, and more is focused on improving the lives of everyday Americans. Only when governments put their own citizens first will people be fully invested in their national futures. Much of President Trump's speech focused on the success the administration had seen while pursuing an America First policy, a set of guidelines that tries to benefit average Americans through economic policies such as trade protections or tax cuts. And now my favorite part.
It gets better.
President Donald Trump schooled 17-year-old enviro tyrant Greta Thunberg while giving an address to the World Economic Forum in Davos. She was in the audience, like this.
It's terrible.
Thank you. While she was in the audience, Trump smacked down the bad Greta, bad. "Oh, why did you do this to me? Stop it!" Backed her down. And he said other opportunistic doomsaying globalists with a message of unrelenting optimism. To embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom, Greta, and their predictions of an apocalypse. They are the errors of yesterday's fortune tellers, and we have them, and I have them, and they want to see us do badly, but we won't let that happen. This is not a time for pessimism. This is a time for optimism. Fear and doubt is not a good thought process. He must have gone to your
I
classes.
think so.
Because this is a time for tremendous hope and joy and optimism and action.
Sounds good to
That's
me.
very uplifting to me. Greta must have had it. She must have pooped in her diaper. Big League Politics has reported that Thunberg became a worldwide phenomenon in part because of her family's connections to George Soros.
I told you.
And now I'm going to tell you why. The 16-year-old climate change activist Greta Thunberg,
She's now 17.
now she's 17, quickly rose to become one of the world's most prominent political leaders. I don't think she was a political leader, inspiring a mass movement of millions seemingly out of thin air
Isn't that interesting?
to combat the problem of global warming, which doesn't exist. However, the young girl's sudden ascent to prominence is not happening by chance. She has deep connections to the globalist elite and activist parents who are supporters of the far-left domestic terrorist group Antifa.
I think we've reported on that before.
Well, Now it's in black and white. Thunberg's frequent handler is Luisa Marie Neubauer. I have reported on her. She's German. An operative from the One Movement, it's called One Movement. Neubauer can be seen behind Thunberg at many of her public events. The Gates Foundation, you know who that is, admits on their official website that the One Movement is a collaboration between some of the world's richest and most powerful interests, including infamous progressive financier George Soros. I told you in Hebrew, Soros means trouble. Trump gave a much-deserved rebuke at Davos to the spoiled brat who has been anointed this generation's phony savior by the globalists. I just love
Well, the
that
thing is,
information.
technically she's really a mind-controlled
Well,
young lady.
and I've said this
So-
before, people, I'm going to tell you again. Now that she's been exposed, when Mr. Soros is done with her, she will
And
disappear.
that's what happens to all of them.
And not in a pleasant way. Now here's very interesting. President Trump said he expects to release his long-awaited Middle East peace plan prior to his meeting with Israeli leaders this coming week of January 27th. Sometime prior to that, he said probably will release a little bit that he'll release. And he had spoken briefly to the Palestinians about the plan, and I'm sure they were not amused. Now, here's my stuff. What will it be? Will it be a unified Israel? Perhaps covering all of the West Bank and maybe Gaza? Because they have already announced that they plan to annex the West Bank and Gaza, or the West Bank of the Valley, which really is Judea and Samaria. So it is part of Israel, given to them by God, and also the United Nations and the Balfour
Well,
Declaration.
that's what I said. How can they annex something that already belongs to
Because it
them?
was taken away from them illegally. And perhaps including what is now Jordan, which is why Jordan is all in a snit. The king of Jordan's in a snit.
I like Jordan.
Yes, but it's going to be now Israel, which it always has been, and which was given to them again by the UN and the Balfour Declaration. Now, they also has information that they may be building a speed rail from Tel Aviv to Dubai across the Saudi Arabian desert, and Saudi Arabia has become very, very friendly with the Israelis, and they say this to the Palestinians, bye.
What's happening
Bye.
with him and Bezos?
Bezos, he deserves to go in the toilet bowl and be
Yeah.
flushed. And why would she be interested in that person? She had a good-looking husband, and look at him, just for his money.
That's what they do.
She's a plastic lady anyway.
That's what they do. They
Her-
wouldn't be doing
Her
such
cheeks
things.
have been pulled so high up, her toes are curled. Anyway, they also, maybe the Israelis, involved in building Neom, which
We've
is
been
a
talking about
new
that,
city in
yes.
Saudi Arabia. Now, another wonderful, I can't even say words, but Elizabeth Warren's campaign.
Isn't she the Pocahontas of
Yeah,
the-
Pocahontas. What's the other one that I like to call her?
Nancy Pansy?
No, that's Nancy Pansy. This is
Oh, Elizabeth Pocahontas. I get them all mixed up.
Yeah, anyway, she only has 11 days to go before the Iowa caucuses. And there's a video on the internet showing a man furious over the Massachusetts senator's much hyped plan to eliminate $1.6 trillion in student loan in the country. Who's going to pay for that? In her campaign website, Warren makes no bones about her plan to cancel student loan debt on day one of her presidency. Like, there's nothing else so important but that's the first thing she would want to do.
It's not going to happen.
She needs to stay home and bake cookies with her little sweater that she wears all the time. She needs to go home and make cookies for her children.
They made cookies in space for the first time.
So, we're not talking about that. So, anyway, this man said to her, "My daughter's getting out of school. I saved all my money so she doesn't have any student debt." He said, "Am I going to get my money back?"
That's a good idea.
And she said, "Of course not."
Well, I think he should get his money back.
So he said to her, "So you're going to pay for people who didn't save some money and those of us who did the right thing and get screwed?" She had no answer for that.
Yeah, I think we should get our money back.
Yeah, that's not right. So it's unavoidable that she's not only being unfair to those who pay their debts like responsible, honest adults, but she's also devaluing the sacrifice of those who moved heaven and earth to avoid getting into debt in the first place. So if she ever were elected, God forbid, the U.S. would be bankrupt on the first day of her presidency.
I don't think she's gonna be elected.
No, there's no way. She's absolutely more bizarro than Greta. Now, here's something else more bizarro. In New York City, which is already bizarro.
True.
Up to 1 million non-citizens living in New York City may obtain voting rights for local elections if a plan by a Democrat city council member is approved.
That doesn't sound right either.
Breitbart News reports Democrat city council members are considering legislation that allows eligible legal immigrants to vote in citywide elections, similar to San Francisco's policy where non-citizens can vote in school board elections, only this would be all
Well,
elections.
they shouldn't get to vote at all, I'm sorry.
The law would give local electoral power to the city's massive 3.1 million foreign-born population,
A lot of people.
making up 40% of the city's population. The majority of the city's foreign-born population has arrived from Dominican Republic, China, Mexico, Jamaica, Guyana, Ecuador, Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, Bangladesh, and India. More than half of the city's foreign-born population speaks either Spanish or Chinese. Well, I can speak both, so I get along with them. And nearly 50% of the total foreign-born population is effectively non-proficient in English.
So how can they vote?
How do they know what the candidates are saying? So can I go to Mexico or Haiti and China and vote?
I don't think so.
No. New York City is being destroyed. Their government is corrupt. They're stupid. And you know what? They deserve Elizabeth Warren and Greta.
Maybe Trump will get rid of them.
I hope so. He left New York. He moved to Florida. Now, speaking of China, and this is on the news, of course, every minute, China's National Health Commission said at least 26 people have died from a fast-spreading coronavirus, and the total number of confirmed cases in the country rose to 830, and that's as of your birthday. South Korea confirmed a second patient has been infected, and same with Japan. 33 million people in China are now under travel restrictions. 33 million people in China is like what house?
It's a lot of
like
people.
one house.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. Shanghai Disney is closed, so is the Great Wall of China. It's a good thing I've been there already.
I haven't.
And they're not going to do the Lunar New Year. Well, that's today. You're not celebrating your birthday.
I can't have
Sorry.
Chinese. I can't have Chinese
No
food.
Chinese food for you. And you know where it started?
Wuhan.
Yeah, but you know where they said? Eating bat soup, supposedly. Disgusting. Why do they eat these things in China? There's other food they could have. And here's what I thought was interesting. The city of Wuhan is building a 1,000-bed hospital to treat the infected plants. So you think, oh, they're building 1,000, when is that going to work? They're going to be ready by next week.
Well, they have 33 million people that are
Yeah,
at risk.
they're stuck home. They might as well
And
just
there's
go out and
only
build a hospital.
But there's only 1,000 beds.
That's, yes,
So,
and
what are they going to do with the other
well,
32 point?
probably make soup
out
out of them. Anyway, there's been 846 confirmed cases, 26 deaths so far. Mainland China, of course, has the most cases with 830. Taiwan has 1, Macau 2, Hong Kong 2, Vietnam 2, Thailand 3, South Korea 2, Japan 2, Singapore 1, and the United States now has 2, 1 not far away from us in Chicago. So the virus, now here's the real reason what's going on. The virus is a deep state punishment to China for the trade deal they made with Trump in the United States. So they're being punished because now Nancy Pants get all her money.
But they said, that Wuhan was the center where they were doing all kinds of experimental warfare.
Exactly. And now Nancy Pants not going to get her money, neither is Schumer, or all the Biden, all those people that have stuff there. Now they're screwed, so they're going to screw China, just like they did with the Australian fires, which were purposely set because Australia supports the United States and Trump.
And also the guy who discovered the coronavirus, now they're claiming he's dead in China.
Oh, he died. I saw that. Yeah.
So wasn't that interesting, right?
Well, it's
'Cause
all
he
a big
knew
scam.
something.
It's a big scam.
Well, he
Just
knew
like
something.
SARS and West Nile virus and Ebola, and the whole world's going to be destroyed, and it'll
Yeah.
puffed out after a
So
bit.
don't get your vaccine against it.
Don't ever get a vaccine, no. Now, something from where you used to come from. A mysterious deep space event,
I came from deep space.
apparently, have stretched and squeezed squeezed Earth.
Yeah, I think I came from deep space.
Yeah, astronomers observed a split-second burst of gravitational waves on January 14th, but they can't figure out precisely where it came from.
Space.
Deep space. These waves are disturbances in space-time that are generally caused by accelerated masses, such as black holes, neutron stars colliding with each other. I think they're a-holes, actually.
Deep space.
A-holes, black holes, same thing. However, astronomers were unsure because this particular burst didn't last very long, and Andy Howell, a scientist at Los Cumbres Observatory Global Telescope Network, says the burst seems a little too short for what we expected from the collapse of a massive star. On the other hand, we've never seen a star blowing up in gravitational waves, so we really don't know what it looks. So they said that it could be from two intermediate black holes having merged. They don't know. So I will translate. In other words, they have no idea, yet they keep getting funded to know nothing. They get billions of dollars and they can't figure anything out. Now, speaking of people who can't figure anything out, confused residents have reported a mysterious blue light in the sky between Swansea and Carmarthenshire. I hope I said that correctly, in Wales. The strange blob was spotted from around 6 p.m. onward Tuesday, January 21. One resident who did not want to be named said the blue or purple light hit was around 6:15 p.m. It looked like it was coming from M4, that's a motorway. It moved to the right, then went off. Perhaps it was Harry setting off fires to reflect his anger at the Queen. That's what I think it is.
Purple?
I think that he blew up something.
Maybe it was Prince. Didn't he sing Purple Rain?
He's dead.
I know, but that could be him from beyond, communicating with everybody.
Well, another strange thing, maybe not so strange, unseasonably cold weather descended on Israel with intermittent rain throughout the country, with thunderstorms and hail. Snow began falling on Mount Hermon, which is not unusual, with accumulations of 15 centimeters, about 6 inches. The ski resort at the site will be closed to visitors as heavy snow is expected later in the day. Wouldn't you open if there was heavy snow at a ski resort?
Well, 6 inches isn't too much on a ski resort.
Yeah,
They need more than that.
I think they need to
ski.
do the opposite. Snow also descended on the northern town of Svet, which is in the middle of northern near Galilee, as well as on Kibbutz Meron Golan in the Golan Heights. In the West Bank, which is really the Judean Valley, snow fell on Mount Bracha, northeast of Nablus, as well as in the settlement of Ofra and the settlement block of Gush Etzion. The entire Middle East and Central Asia have been very cold this season with heavy snow in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Blabastan, and so on.
And every other stand.
Yeah, every other stand that we know. Now, we know about the wildfires that was in Australia, killed 25 people, burned 18 million acres. Now, they said it slaughtered 1 billion animals. How do they know? Did they count 1, 2, 3? I don't think there was 1 billion animals in Australia.
Well, they might count insects and bugs.
Yeah, but that's not animals. So people saying, what other catastrophes could possibly happen? Well, Yellowstone is one of them. It's 44 miles wide. The last big eruption was 630,000 years ago. But if it erupts again, it would be like nothing humanity's ever seen. An ultra catastrophe that would lead to global devastation. There's also Indonesia with Mount Merapi last exploding in 2018. But there's a bigger threat from the Lake Toba supervolcano. And they call it the Forgotten Volcano. It last erupted about 75,000 years ago, and actually they said created a slowdown in human development because the world's population shrank.
How does that make people slower? That doesn't make any sense.
And then do you know about the Helena slump?
No, should I care about the Helena
Well,
slump?
you better, because it's on the south slope of Hawaii's Big Island, and every now and then there's a landslide that creates a horrid tsunami. And though there's an evidence that a similar collapse in nearby Mauna Loa 120,000 years ago generated a tsunami with waves up to 400 meters. That's
So
1,200
I need to be
feet
worried
high.
about that today.
Yeah, and as recently as 1975, movement of the Helena slump generated a smaller yet destructive tsunami that reached California.
Yeah, I don't need to be worried about that either.
And of course, they're also saying there was Hurricane Irene, Katrina, Wilma, Sandy, blah, 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 blah. There's all these billions of dollars in damage, and that we could have monster storms in the future. That's probably from Greta. And of course, the San Andreas fault line, which wreaked havoc and devastation in the past and predicted to do so again. Likelihood of magnitude 8.0 or larger quake hitting California in the next few decades, probably the next few days.
But they've said that for decades.
And let's not forget the Cascadia subduction zone from your homeland covers most of Oregon and Washington state, and due to the massive population increases in these states over the last decade, it could be really bad. Now, another West Coast earthquake disaster is in Chile, on the west coast of South America. They have had 9 plus, and a megathrust would be accompanied by a devastating tsunami. Also, another one that I have been telling you for years, the unstable volcano in the Canary Islands, which they said could wipe out the Caribbean.
I've heard that.
Yeah, because the Cumbre Vieja volcano on the island of La Palma and the Canary Islands is unstable and could plunge into the ocean and is expected to cause a mega tsunami which would wipe out the many island nations. And then it goes on to say there could be a massive solar storm which would destroy everything on the earth. There could be a strike of a, what is it called? They call it an asteroid. And they said in 2028, you will like the name of this asteroid, is asteroid 1997 XF11.
Oh yeah, I heard of that one.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what they call it for short. 199E. And it will come extremely close to the Earth, but it will miss the planet. But if something were to change and then hit the Earth, what would you think of a 1 mile wide asteroid striking the planet at 30,000 miles per hour?
I'm sure at that point I wouldn't care.
No, but I would need a lot of vodka before that happened.
Well, you wouldn't know.
It would wipe out all life on the planet, they said. And of course, finally, and this actually is very appropriate, communicable diseases. They mentioned Ebola epidemic of 2014 and now the coronavirus, and that could wipe out most of the earth, which it will not because it's all fake. Should we worry? No. Remove the victimization mind pattern and nothing bad can happen.
Okay, so is this the optimism stuff that Trump was talking about?
Yeah, I'm
or
being
the
optimistic.
doomsday
Be
stuff?
optimistic. Don't you
That's
be
really
grumpy.
doomsday stuff.
Yeah, but now here's something for the United States. Because these are the laziest states in America, according to the CDC, which is an official government agency.
I think
And-
they're lazy.
Well, but it said 7 states: Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and getting a theme, Southern,
So?
reported the highest levels of inactivity. In these states, 30% or more of the adults were physically inactive.
How do they know
Because
that?
they've just been sitting down eating corn pone and fried chicken and doing nothing.
But how do they know that?
Because they studied them.
Studied who?
The people in those states.
I don't
They're
believe
big,
it.
fat, ugly, and they sit still and don't move.
I don't believe
Mhm.
that. No.
That's why we live up north.
I still don't believe that.
So, guess where the states with the most activity is?
Where?
Colorado, Washington,
Washington State.
yes, Utah, Oregon, and the District of Columbia were the most active. And I said, District of Columbia active? Well, I guess if you count running away from gangsters and hoodlums and robbers, that would make you run fast. That's why they're active. Like, oh, here comes a robber, let's get the heck
Okay,
out.
let's go back to who's funding these studies and why do we care?
I say it's
Because
George
that
Soros
money-
and Greta.
That money should be going to people who need food and shelter.
Greta, and I have discovered all the... Go on.
I think we need to put that money into food and shelter and not these stupid studies.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of stupid things.
Don't look at me when you say that.
Stupid things. Harry and Meghan, one of my favorite topics.
Must we discuss them?
Yes, because this was so fascinating to me. You know, they moved over, well, I'm not sure if they moved over to Canada or not because
Canada don't want them.
Well, last I reported on it, it might be illegal for them to live there. So I don't really know where they're going to live.
It's illegal for them to live anywhere.
Apparently. But they moved, they claim, with a £34 million private fortune. So they
Poor
want,
things.
Yeah, and so this is to start their new life. So they want to.
Yeah, we need that to start a new life.
I think that would be good. So that the retail experts suggest that this Sussex royal empire, whatever they want to do, could generate revenues from £400 million to £1 billion. So.
Well, no wonder the Queen threw him out.
So yeah, because they don't need the
I
royal
want
family.
that money.
Yeah, they give it back to her.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there's a place called the Intellectual Property Office, and they don't say which country that's in. I'm not sure. But this is where the Sussexes, I guess that's what you call them now, Meghan and Harry, have filed saying that they want to make note of this brand. But a British doctor, Benjamin Worcester, 34, has requested to oppose them using their brand. So I thought that was interesting. Now, they asked him why. He said he had a personal reason to lodge the notice.
Yeah, he didn't like them.
But now he says it was an imposter who filed it, not him. And
So in other words, they paid him off.
yeah, and so now he's withdrawn it without saying why.
What if we give you $100 million? Oh, okay, you could do
Yeah,
it.
he actually lives in Victoria, Australia, and it was thought that he worked as an NHS doctor in the UK
Not Victoria, Canada, where they are.
from 2011 to 2014, and studied medicine at the University College of London. So it'd be interesting to know what's behind that. But I thought that was pretty interesting. And then speaking of the wealthy, which you had talked about Davos and what's going on in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So apparently millionaires and wealthy celebrities demand to pay more tax because they are the most privileged human beings to walk the earth. More than 120 wealthy celebrities and business figures signed an open letter urging their peers, that means other millionaires and billionaires, so we can't sign that, to call for a tax increase to address the economic disparities around the globe.
Oh, they should call Elizabeth Warren.
So apparently they released this letter to coincide with the World Economic Forum in Davos. And these 120 people are from 8 countries, and they include the co-founder of Innocent Drinks, which I never heard of.
Innocent Drinks?
Richard Reed, and former chief executive of Unilever, Paul Pullman. There's a lot of rich people, I guess, I didn't know about.
Maybe they would invite us someplace.
Maybe, but they claim the wealth gap had hit crisis level, resulting in the erosion of trust within societies, increased resentment, and the undermining of basic social cohesion. That makes sense.
I don't even know what that means.
It means because now we're having we don't have a middle class. We have a lower class, and we have all these people with all the money. So the lower class, where there's more of, are going to resent the upper class, which means they're going to revolt, just like what we've seen in South Africa and other countries. And that'll be the downfall of the millionaires, billionaires, because everybody.
But I wanted to be one of them.
Well, that's the problem. You might lead like a revolt against them. So, these millionaires, billionaires say there are 2 kinds of wealthy people: those who prefer taxes and those who prefer pitchforks. We prefer taxes.
I like pitchforks.
And they claim that philanthropy is an inadequate substitute for government investment. That's because philanthropy means, like all the millionaires, billionaires pat each other's pockets, and the lower classes never get anything. They said that over half the world's population is trying to survive on less than $5.50 per day, or around £4.
But the thing is, where those people live, things cost like a tenth of that.
But even here, there's a lot of people with minimum wage, and they cannot make a living. It's called the working poor. The people in this letter said the rate of poverty reduction has halved since 2013, but in the past decade, the number of billionaires has doubled. We're not on that list yet.
No.
It says inequality is not inevitable, it's a policy choice. It's the product of governments passing policies that favor the very wealthy at the expense of the less fortunate. Fixing this broken economy might feel too complex to many world leaders, so let the millionaires help you get started. Tax them more, and do it now. So apparently, they're getting the news that the little guy in the street's getting restless. So let's see what happens with that one.
They need to go live in New York City.
Now, also on stage at the World Economic Forum in Davos, in my opinion, this has to do with astral imprinting.
Ooh.
There is a bizarre video that shows Julianne Hough writhing and groaning while she undergoes
Oh, I saw that.
an exorcism-like energetic treatment
She had nice clothes on.
with Gwyneth Paltrow approved body healer. This man's
Gwyneth
name,
Paltrow?
approved body healer.
Uh-huh.
His name is John Amaral. I don't know how old he is, but Huff says is 31. He was on stage at this World Economic Forum, and he was talking about tapping into energetic intelligence. This doesn't make any sense at a World Economic Forum, but there we have it. So apparently he had this Julian, who's apparently a dancer, lying face down on a table, and then he waved his hands over her, and she began to rise
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
carry
I
on.
was like, what is she doing?
And then he said that he was releasing her emotion through movement.
Uh-huh.
And then he pretends to pull well, they don't say pretend on this, but pull something out of her backside. So she screams, she jumps in, remember she's an actress, jumps in the air, arches her back, and someone's commented, is he pulling the demonic spirit out of her booty? And somebody else said, call a priest. And apparently this Gwyneth Paltrow has a show called Gwyneth's Goop, where she features this man. And I guess the new show is called the Goop Lab. I'm not sure. They have Goop, Gwyneth's Goop, Goop Lab, who knows. It's a Netflix show. And the chief content officer of the show also undergoes the same exorcism-style treatment. So this reminded me of something that was happened in the 80s called network chiropractic. I saw it at some exhibition I
No,
was
it's been
at.
more recent than that even.
No, network chiropractic, I looked it up, it was started in the 80s. And so these people, so this was supposedly chiropractic treatment, and they would lay people on the
Yeah,
table and pass, and people would do all kinds of weird
Yeah,
stuff.
it was stupid.
Yeah, this is stupid. So, but to me, because now they're talking about exorcism and all that, to me it's astral imprinting. And why it's at Davos World Economic Forum, I don't know, but I think it's really stupid. But obviously it made the news, so people
They
are
should
talking
take the
about it.
demon out of Greta's butt.
Maybe. You do the thing with the whatever, but
What can you?
yeah, upend yourself.
Because this wasn't really her hand. You
Yeah,
know.
so upend
It's
yourself.
not her face either.
Oh, is it with the puppet part? Anyway, and then moving on that, this was also interesting. Again, speaking of waste of money, but communicating with the dead advances. This is the title of what I've called this because, I don't know if you saw this article about a mummy speaking from beyond the grave.
No.
The scientists recreate the nasal voice
Oh, I did see that.
of an ancient Egyptian priest
But you know-
3,000 years after he died using CT scans of his voice box.
Yeah, but the thing is, I tried to listen to it and it was blank.
Well, it says that what they did, they only could replicate a vowel, which was either an A or an E. I didn't listen to it. I just read the
And
article.
how do they know that's a real thing?
Well, because in my opinion, they're setting people up to communicate with the dead.
But I already do that.
Well, then they can do that by reading our books, but this is the astral crap stuff. So it says that his remains were so well preserved that his soft tissue was largely intact. So they did a CT scan, they mapped the inside, and using a 3D printing, they did like a thing of his vocal
But
cords.
wait a minute, this is Egyptian mummy?
Yeah.
Because they remove all their internal organs.
Well, they claimed that his tongue was even stuck out. So then they said, well, maybe he died of a bee sting
Like
or
maybe
something.
they killed him.
Maybe.
They
And then they
strangled him.
said that they first unwrapped him in 1824,
Oh.
and believe it or not, the words, I guess in Egyptian, were inscribed on his coffin was true of voice.
True of voice?
On his coffin, they claim. Then they went on to say that even though it's only a single vowel now, but in the next 2 years they're hoping that they can get full sentences.
From him?
That's what they're indicating. Now listen to this one.
Uh-oh.
This is Professor Joanne Fletcher of the Department of Archaeology at the University of York said, while this has wide implications for both healthcare and museum display, because I mean like that's where we should be spending millions of dollars on this, right?
Yeah.
Its relevance conforms exactly to the ancient Egyptians' fundamental belief that to speak the name of the dead is to make them live again. So isn't that interesting?
Well, then we would have a lot of company in this house.
So I'm just telling you that this is more stuff, getting people ready to do more stuff that is not so good. So then, this was kind of also interesting, speaking of the paranormal. Washington State Department of Transport posts pictures of Bigfoot captured on its webcam in the Cascade Mountains. It shared photos from their Sherman Pass SR-20 webcam that showed what appeared to be a large shadow underneath a tree. And Washington State Department of Transportation said if you look closely by the tree on the left, there looks to be something, might be Sasquatch. We will leave that up to you. Now, of course, people were writing on saying that it was a tree trunk in shadow, which is possible. But the point being still
Why would
is...
the Department of Transportation say that?
And why would they start promoting the Sasquatch
Well, have
thing?
you been up to that pass?
No, I don't think so. But that's real far north up in Washington State, on the Cascades, I think, almost against the Canadian border. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Now there's that other one, I had to chuckle, because this one, I'll tell you what. Robert Downey Jr., who I happen to like him as an actor, believe it or not. However, he has, they're calling it a massive Malibu estate, but it's only 7 acres. So to me, that's not like a massive estate. That's,
But the land is very expensive there.
yeah, but still, it's not massive. It might be expensive land, but 7 acres is not massive. But anyway, massive Malibu estate. Now, they said that he's turning it into a wildlife refuge. Okay, now what's the funny part is for alpacas, cows, goats, pigs, pygmy goats, chickens, and 2 cats. So the point is that's not wildlife. Those are domesticated animals. But they're calling it a sanctuary for wildlife.
But is he still going to live there?
I guess. He says it basically I live on a rescue farm. It's not a rescue farm, and nor is a wildlife refuge.
Who's going to clean up all that poop?
Well, they show him claiming to, but you know he's
right.
not
He's
going
to clean up
to.
the poop, right?
Apparently, back in 2009, he purchased it for $13 million. So if he has $13 million, he's not going to clean up his own poop.
He can get poop people.
But it's not a wildlife refuge, and it's not a rescue farm. It's just stuff that he's collected.
I think he lost his brain.
So anyway, I thought I just had to bring that because it's not a wildlife refuge, really. And then
No, we
finally,
have a wildlife refuge.
more so. Now, I have another public service announcement.
Uh-oh.
2 weeks ago, I brought you toothpaste. I can't remember what I told you last week.
Yeah, but you
There was
told me,
another
you told
one.
me I can't put it
Now,
where I
this
wanted to.
one is about TikTok users eating cereal out of each other's mouths.
Ugh.
Now,
Why?
apparently, according, it's called the cereal challenge. Have somebody lay on their back, like say you lay on your back, and while you're on your back, I pour in cereal into your mouth from a box. Then I pour in milk into your mouth, and then I use your mouth like a bowl and use a spoon.
And why would you do that?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, it's very dangerous because you
Yeah.
could choke somebody to death.
Plus get bad germs.
Worse than that, you can choke them to death. So unless you're planning on like murder, don't do that. Don't pour cereal and milk into somebody's mouth.
And don't put toothpaste in your private
Yeah,
parts.
and then the other thing is they even showed apparently a video of a large dog eating the cereal out of somebody's mouth.
Ugh.
So-
Who's doing these things?
I don't know, and I haven't seen it,
And
nor do I want to.
These are moron people.
But I'm telling you, don't do this because you can kill people by really.
First of all,
choke 'em to
that's
death.
like you might as well go to Wuhan and eat a bat soup.
I think that would be healthier and probably
Probably.
less likely to die.
Although it makes me sick to look at those people eating it.
Anyway, so
And so, a couple of things we need to
Clarify.
say. Yes, the Turkey trip, which is on our website. I understand that some of you have a little bit of confusion. Perhaps you live in some of those southern states that are
a
lazy.
little slow.
Yeah. So maybe I can do it with. No, I shouldn't do it. Okay. So anyway, I will be in Turkey. First, I'm going to Malta.
But that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Well, I will get to Istanbul on April 20th. Then, on April 24th to 26th, I will be going to Göbekli Tepe with a tour group, which you will see on the website, and where you can make your transfer payments, and that tells you everything that is included and so on. And then, April 28th to 20.
Don't
maybe
confuse
30th,
them. Don't confuse
I'll be
them.
in Ankara, but that's for local people and the international.
The international
people
people are only those
in
3
Ankara.
days in April.
But I am talking, okay?
I know, but the thing is,
Okay.
you're confusing people.
You must please let
You're
them
confusing
talk.
people.
Yes, and so there'll be a second repeat trip, May 1 to 3, again to Göbekli Tepe. So it has become so popular that I was only going to do that weekend of the 24th to 26th, but so many people wanted to come that they asked me, please, will you go the following weekend again? And I didn't want to, but Janet said, why don't you go? I don't want you here, so just stay there. So that's why I'll be there May 1 to 3rd, a second weekend in Göbekli Tepe. So you have your choice right now of weekend 1 in April or weekend 2 in May, but you must decide ASAP because the hotels are filling up, the flights are filling up, everything's filling up, and if you want to come, and I'm not doing this again, people, I'm telling you, I'm not going back through again, you need to do this now, and
Okay,
please sign
so
up.
tell them why they want to go do that 3-day trip to Göbekli.
Because it is
What's
the
there?
oldest city known on the earth. It's 13,000 plus years old. It has the entire history of humanity embedded in the stelae and in the ruins. I'm going to explain all of that. I'm going to show you the connection to the Star Fleet and the Star Force and so on. It's very, very amazing. It's all on the...
No, it's not.
It's not on there.
The thing is it's there and it's not. And people are so confused for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Mhm.
Now, the people in Turkey aren't confused, but for some reason,
I don't know why, and they don't even speak English.
the Europeans are
Mhm.
confused. So that's why we need to explain this just a little bit more for you. If you want to sign up, because you may not realize this, but the time period is tourist season in Turkey because if you go too far into the summer,
It's too hot
it's too hot. So therefore, the hotels are filling up
now.
now. And so the tour people there want everybody signed up like yesterday. So if you're intending on going, you don't really have time to think about it. You need to make a choice and you need to choose a weekend and you need to sign up and you need to go.
I'll be
And-
giving all the information that I've given in the last couple of week-long classes I'll be doing there, only in person with the ruins that say what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So it's quite
So
fascinating.
that will be a very fascinating trip, and especially if you're already over there in Europe, it's a very easy trip for you. Very reasonable.
Mhm.
And Turkey's a lovely country.
It is.
I like it. All right, so that said, so that's Turkey. Then in June, of course, I have my Clear Health and Healing trip. So let me show you some of the mountains that we're going to be hiking on, which of course are the covers of these 2 new books that we have. Hopefully you have them by now.
And these images, by the way, which is recently displayed at a photo gallery
Yes,
and an exhibit.
a very exclusive place. So anyway, so if you want to go on my Clear Health and Healing tour, please sign up because I think we've got about 3 or 4 spaces left and that's it. And this will be done. Then on our return, we are going to stop by Iceland. We just added that and I think I have 8 spaces open still.
In Iceland.
In Iceland, on my Iceland tour. It's 4.5 days. You don't have to go on the Italian tour. You can meet us in Iceland from either the States or anywhere else you want in the world.
Or you could do both.
And they can do both. I have some people doing both already. So check out our website for that. That's going to be absolutely stunning and amazing. So I'm very excited. Okay, so we've got
I'm
that.
not excited because I have to stay home.
No, that's too bad. So then we have, of course, beginning in February, once more, we have just 2 or 3 more sessions left of our self-healing webinar based on this book. The people who are doing it are doing great, great work. We meet once a week by webinar for people all over the world, and we have a lot of interesting information come out. Then, hopefully, you will have...
So let's all 3 hold on.
Okay, so you have that book. Oh, this is the first book, so hold that up first. Then this book. This book should be available for sale, hopefully within about 2 weeks, I'm hoping. And then, of course, there will be another one, which will be supportive of it, called Heights of Spirituality, which is not this book. This is Heights of Health, but it will be based similar
So
to
it's a
this.
series of 4.
Yeah, basically it's a series of 4. So within the next couple of weeks, Heights of Spirituality, and this one should be available to you to purchase. So people who are in our class, actually we had some preview copies and where they were able to get this
They got the
one.
only copy so far.
Yes, they did, and they're
That's
the
what
only ones
happens
on the
when you
whole
when they
earth.
don't come to a class.
So anyway, lots of things going on the first 6 months of 2020 in our lives. Be sure you get your membership, expansions.com, less than $1 a day. Please stop sending in your questions on Facebook, on YouTube, because we're not going to answer you. That's why we have our website, expansions.com, less than $1 a day. And with that said, we're going to get on to our birthday celebrations.
Goodbye from Bertha. We wish you a very happy day.
See you next
Happy birthday.
next week. Goodbye.
Bye.